MeMonster.
Chapter 41. Tack. I closed my laptop. Well, that's terrifying. Chok Jung-young killed someone without hesitation, purely for his own enjoyment. This was the world I created. On the surface, society seemed functional, with science and magic vastly improving quality of life. But beneath it all, demi-humans who didn't care for law or morals lurked within. Demi-humans didn't just refer to jinns. Humans who rejected the existence of heroes but had supernatural powers just like them were also included. Officially, they were wanted criminals, but the public called them villains. What killed him? Only after slowing it down 10 times was I able to catch a glimpse. Chok Jung-young threw out a jab, and a violent pressure erupted, instantly killing the police officer. He killed someone without even making contact. Also, this thing. I stared at the drone on my bed. It was more useful than I expected. If I bought a more expensive drone and added more settings, I might be able to put it to good use. Wing. At that moment, my smartwatch suddenly rang. Yo, can I nominate you? It was Chae Na-yoon. She seemed to be talking about tomorrow's duels. Why? What do you mean, why? You already provoked me several times. I still had one nomination left. Cadets had to duel at least 3 times and could duel at most 6 times. In other words, I didn't need to fight anyone else unless someone nominated me. No, I'm exhausted from today. There was no chance of me winning in a one-on-one fight against Chae Na-yoon. Not only were arrows stronger than bullets, but I also didn't have the physical ability to dodge her rapid-fire shots. You can think about that tomorrow morning. Also, how did you destroy chi reinforcement with a bullet? It didn't look like you used your personal weapon. That's what everyone's talking about. That was your gift, right? So this was her real goal. I ignored her message. Thinking about it now, I doubted she had any nominations left. Even if she did, she probably wouldn't use it to maintain her peak condition. After all, she was scheduled to duel Rachel tomorrow. Whoa, it's already 12. I took off my smartwatch and looked at the time. It was already midnight. When I turned off the light and lay down on the bed, I received another message. You put on quite the show. This time it was Yu Yanhua. I gave a short reply. I didn't want to get hit. Because you destroyed a chi reinforcement with your bullet, many guilds are showing interest in you. I know. I had gained quite a bit of SP, 185 since noon. Once I collected a bit more, I might be able to create a new art or physique. They're calling your gift Superpower Bullet or Bullet Reinforcement. Speaking of which, what do you think about guilds? Those names suck. No, I mean, what do you think about Essence of the Straight? Yu Yanhua has a tendency to judge people based on their usefulness. This will only get worse as she gets older, and she will eventually become someone who didn't care about someone's background as long as they were useful. Contacting cadets beforehand is illegal. That's a 500 million won penalty. I sent a thoughtless message, trying to end the conversation. First, I'm still a cadet. Cadets can try to recruit cadets without being in trouble with the law. Second, I can afford to pay that much. She returned a very serious reply. I felt a bit awkward. That's not your money, it's your parents' money. Oh right, your acting was pretty superb in your second and third match. This girl, why is she talking like I was hiding my power? If anything, Kim Soo-ho is the one hiding his power. Were you watching? I had time, but to be honest, I think your growth speed is too quick. You were rank 934 during the initial exams, but if you corner a rank 18 after switching to a sharpshooter role, it's too eye-catching, no matter how much aptitude you have for it. What is she on about now? I also ignored Yu Yanhua's message. In truth, my eyelids were closing. I fought 3 times today, so it was not surprising. Oh right, I suddenly remembered something else to do. I turned on my smartwatch and sent Park Soo-hik a message. Hewing, thanks for the drone. I'll take good care of it. Chame Hayes Chow, Chameleon Troop's hiding place. In a pitch-black, abandoned factory without a single stream of light, the boss of Chameleon Troop was sitting cross-legged on the ground. A series of battles from earlier in the day was being played in her head.
Kim Soo-ho's swordsmanship was just like what she had heard. His sword strikes were light as a feather, but carried heavy destructive power and connected fluently to his next move. Each of his movements was natural like flowing water. His swordsmanship was so well polished and sharpened that it seemed more suitable to call it a sword art than swordsmanship. Next was Shin Jung-hak. His spearmanship was truly domineering and vicious. He stabbed directly at his opponent's heart and brutalized anyone who was constantly on the defensive. Using the spear's long reach, he constantly cut, smacked, and stabbed his opponent. Rather than a duel, it was more like a one-sided beating. Next is the man you were talking about, boss, the one who called you hot. She nodded silently. The video being reflected in her eyes changed. This time, it was a battle between a gun and a fist, a sharpshooter and a warrior. It was clear who should be the winner. However, she abruptly opened her eyes. She only watched the video for a short time, but during this time, the sharpshooter's bullet had destroyed the warrior's magic power. She examined the nature of the magic power around the bullet. If her eyes weren't seeing things, it could only be one thing: the power of anti-magic. It was the power she was looking for, the silver bullet that could kill that man. Interesting, isn't it? I was surprised too when I first saw it. Kim Hajin, write his name on the notebook. She spoke without hesitation. Really? Yes, but Jung-young said he didn't like him. Jung-young is a warrior through and through, staring into each other's eyes and trying to strike down death upon the enemy with deadly killing intent. That is what he believed a battle should be. Even in the Chameleon Troupe, there were members he didn't like just because they fought from a long range. I guess so. He did say Kim Soo-ho and Shin Jung-hak were okay. Then put their names down too. Then we'll only have 5 slots left, is that okay? People who had their names written on the notebook could have their live locations tracked. In a way, the notebook was like a GPS. In addition, the owner of the notebook could teleport to the location of a written target. Who do we prioritize? In exchange for its wide-ranged power, the condition "target cannot know that his name is on the notebook" had to be met. But as long as the target wasn't told about the notebook, there was no reason he should notice. Who do we prioritize? The boss closed her eyes. She remembered what happened a long time ago.
The death of the previous leader of Chameleon Troupe, 11 years ago. That man's betrayal. And the day she cried for the first time. In front of a grave, she felt the new burden on her shoulders as the Chameleon Troupe changed its colors once more. For now. The Chameleon Troupe survived even with the death of its leader. A new leader was chosen, and the group managed to take a huge step forward, using resentment and vengeance as nourishment. But now, they couldn't find where the traitor was hiding. No. Even if they knew, they couldn't do anything about it. So, she kept searching this entire time. The power of anti-magic, which could destroy the magic power physique. Put Kim Hajin as top priority. Tuesday. I remained in my room until noon. Although duels continued until today, no one had nominated me. I should have just stayed in the dorm. Currently, it was 1 p.m., and I was outside. To be honest, I was bored. I also wanted to watch Chae Na-yoon, rank 4, duel Rachel, rank 3, and Kim Soo-ho, rank 1, duel Yo-hain, rank 8. The seats are full. However, the arena was completely packed. The first arena had 5,000 seats, but there wasn't an empty seat no matter how hard I looked. Should I go back? Or should I just stand and watch? While I was having such thoughts at the back of the arena, 2 people who seemed to be a couple suddenly stood up and left. K-k-hum. I sat down, feeling like I was walking on eggshells, hoping they wouldn't come back. Thank you for waiting. Thankfully, the couple didn't come back, and the host announced the start of the duel along with the excited cheering of the crowd. Someone sat down next to me. I glanced to the side with a bag of popcorn in my hand, then looked back ahead. Suddenly, the image of the person flashed in my head. She looked familiar. I swallowed the popcorn in my mouth and glanced sideways once again. At the same time, my heart stopped beating and my breathing froze. She was sitting next to me, the boss of the Chameleon Troupe. As someone who lived her life without a name, she was only known by her title, Yasha. I stuffed my shaking hands into the popcorn and fixed my eyes on the dueling arena. My heart, which had temporarily stopped, finally began to thump crazily. Why was she here? Did I do something wrong? Or was it a coincidence? Right, it had to be a coincidence. She was here to watch Kim Soo-ho and just happened to sit next to me. In the middle of my panicked thinking, someone who was walking down the stairs suddenly tripped. This nameless person was holding a large-sized soda. The soda promptly spun in the air before landing on someone's head, like a hat. For the record, the soda was filled to the brim. I didn't know whether luck played a part in it, but not a single drop landed on me. But I turned to the side feeling a tinge of dizziness. Under the soda cup, standing like a party hat, Boss's black pupils were trembling uncontrollably.
Chapter 42. Oh no, I'm so sorry. The nameless person apologized in shock. The Chameleon Troupe's boss seemed just as surprised, remaining completely still. First, I took the soda cup off her head. The ice cube sitting on her head immediately slid down, and Boss shut her eyes tightly. Please wait just 1 minute. I'll go get a towel. But at that moment, the nameless person suddenly froze. His eyes turned lifeless, and he began to walk out in a strange zombie-like manner. I glanced at Boss's neck, where a faint light was glimmering. It seemed what just happened was her necklace's ability. That necklace, I felt like I knew it, but I couldn't quite remember. I wasn't too keen on item settings. She suddenly let out a deep sigh, then turned towards me. I scratched my neck. I had a tiny pack of tissues in my pocket, but it was nowhere near enough to take care of the mess on her head and clothes. But because her eyes were fixed on me, I took out the tissues. You can use this. She looked back and forth between me and the pack of tissues. Then she grabbed the tissues and wiped her face, legs, and arms. Thank you. She gave a light bow and thanked me. I fell into a daze for a moment. What just happened? At that moment, the host's loud voice resounded. We are now starting! The crowd cheered loudly. Countless reporters aimed their cameras at the arena. Although they weren't allowed to film the duels, they could take pictures. The reporters from England were especially excited. Duel between rank 3 Rachel and rank 4 Chae Na-yoon. A battle between a rapier and a bow. This was something that happened in the original story. In other words, I already knew who would win. Rachel. I stared at Rachel and Chae Na-yoon standing in the arena. Though they were far away, I could see them as if they were only a few feet away. Chae Na-yoon's mouth moved. I could hear what she was saying. Princess, our rank will be changing today. Rachel didn't react to Chae Na-yoon's provocation. Beginning countdown. 3, 2, 1. Chae Na-yoon aimed her bow at Rachel, and Rachel held up her rapier. Facing each other, neither side showed even the tiniest imbalance in their posture. Waiting for the start signal, they concealed their openings while searching for their opponents. Start! Chae Na-yoon immediately fired her arrow. Her magic arrow flew out at lightning speed. However, Rachel skirted past the arrow by a hair's breadth with refined, efficient movements. Chae Na-yoon continued with a barrage of arrows. When the arrows raining down from the sky hit the ground, they split into several offshoots and took on unpredictable paths. It seemed this was the plan Chae Na-yoon made for this fight. Since Rachel would just dodge her arrows if she shot directly, Chae Na-yoon was trying to box her in. However, Rachel dodged the terrifying barrage of arrows elegantly. Not only that, but she didn't hesitate to stab with her rapier when given the chance. The magic power from her attacks shot toward Chae Na-yoon like beams of light. Even so, Chae Na-yoon didn't dodge them. Instead, she emitted magic power in the form of a shield to block them. Immediately, the crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Chae Na-yoon's magic power control had already surpassed the level of a cadet. However, the outcome of this fierce battle was predetermined. Chae Na-yoon couldn't win against Rachel. Rachel was a swordsman specialized in receiving long-range attacks. Her slender and flexible body could dodge arrows with the slightest movement, and her attacks of delicate magic power continuously disrupted an archer's posture. Chae Na-yoon created a shield to prevent her posture from becoming unstable, but this method was too costly in magic power. The moment Chae Na-yoon's magic power ran out, it would be Rachel's victory. "I saw your duel against Kim Ho-rak." At that moment, a voice suddenly rang out from next to me. Startled, I jolted slightly. Because I was too focused on Chae Na-yoon and Rachel, I'd forgotten who was sitting next to me. It was incredibly foolish, considering she was currently far more important than Rachel or Chae Na-yoon. Thank you," I replied as calmly as possible. She asked while staring at me, "Was that your gift?" "I'm sorry, but that's not something I can reveal so easily." She took out a business card from her pocket. "This is who I am." She handed me the business card. "Li Xiaopeng, Desolate Moons Grade 3 Hero. Contact address 103-3243-9303. This was likely one of her many fake identities. Even so, my heart trembled as very few people had a way of contacting her. In order not to make it obvious, I simply smiled and muttered, "It's illegal to scout cadets in advance." She tried to put away her business card, but I grabbed her wrist. As I thought, she didn't know how to play hard to get. "I'll hold on to yours." She nodded and gave me her business card. "I'll leave now. Contact us whenever you want." With that, she got up. As she walked out, I stared at her back in a daze. What did she come here for? I couldn't understand. No matter how much I thought about it, there shouldn't have been any reason for her to visit me at this point. All duels ended by 5 p.m. Kim Soo-ho, Shin Jong-hak, Rachel, and a cadet named Ju Young-ho were the only ones to win all their duels. Because cadets could fight up to 3 times a day, many unexpected outcomes had occurred due to one side being tired. Wow, that was amazing! Did you see Kim Soo-ho? How stylish can he get? Chae Na-yoon lost to Rachel. I'm a bit bitter. This is the first time I've seen Korea's rising star lose to a foreigner. By the time I left the arena, the sky had already turned dark. Many spectators brushed past me as they reflected on today's battles. Before I returned to the dorm, I first went into an alleyway behind the arena. After sitting down in a random spot, I took out the drone I placed in my crossback. This drone was quite different from the original, as I added several settings like battery life boost, stealth mode, and target lock-on. These changes would last for 4 days, which is when the Chameleon Troupe would leave. Consequently, the modification was relatively cheap in SP. Fly. I threw the drone into the air. The drone flew into the forest, and I got up to head back to the dorm. Hook. Huh? But a sudden crying sound made me stop. It sounded a bit like an animal crying, but it was also pitiful enough to make me turn in its direction. My eyes broke through several walls in the path, and in a nearby forest, close to the back of the arena, I saw someone hiding between trees and crying. It was Chae Na-yoon. Her body was shaking, and her face was buried between her knees. Oh, this event, I remember it.
It was when Chae Na-yoon would completely fall for Kim Soo-ho. Soon, he would come to console Chae Na-yoon on her defeat, and with everything else that should have happened between them, Chae Na-yoon would come to see Kim Soo-ho as not just a friend. Although things had changed slightly from the original story, it seemed the big picture remained the same. I turned back without much thought. But I hesitated to leave. Kim Soo-ho would console Chae Na-yoon, but his kindness would only comfort her. "You can do better next time. Work hard with me. I will help you get stronger." Such words wouldn't really help Chae Na-yoon. In life, it was sometimes better to give up rather than continue to work hard. But there was no such thing as giving up in Kim Soo-ho's dictionary. He never gave up on anything and never suggested others give up. Because of Kim Soo-ho, Chae Na-yoon wouldn't give up on using a bow for a long time. In the end, I turned on my smartwatch. The message Chae Na-yoon sent me last night was there. "Hey, don't ignore me. If you don't reply, I'll nominate you for real." I gave her an 18-hour late reply. "What are you doing?" Through the walls, I could see Chae Na-yoon's smartwatch ring. But because she was crying, she didn't check her smartwatch. I sent her another message. "I saw your duel today." Chae Na-yoon then glanced at her smartwatch. What does this bastard want now? It seemed she was planning on ignoring my messages. I didn't have any other choice. I sent her a message she couldn't ignore. "See, I told you, you're more suited to a sword than a bow. It's not too late to change your weapon. I did too." This son of a... It was incredibly effective. Fuming, Chae Na-yoon tapped on her smartwatch. "Screw off before I kill you." The reply I sent back immediately was enough to drive her over the edge. "Come on, you defeated a djinn with a sword, so why do you insist on using a bow? I just can't understand. It's almost pitiful. If you fought Rachel like you fought that djinn, do you think you would have lost? What? You want to die? Think a little. You beat her when you were in Agent Military Academy, so why do you think you're losing now? It's because you don't have the aptitude for bows." "What, you piece of shit? Where are you? Do I look like a pushover? You bastard! Don't be so arrogant just because you beat Kim Horak." Her emotional message was hardly readable because of punctuation errors. I didn't even read it all. I didn't reply her either. I wanted to mess with her a bit more because her reaction was funny, but unfortunately, it was time. "Huh? Chae Na-yoon?" Kim Soo-ho peeked his head behind the tree where Chae Na-yoon was hiding. "Eh? What are you doing here?" "What?" Chae Na-yoon quickly wiped off her tears. Then she tried to run, but Kim Soo-ho caught her. "Let me go!" Chae Na-yoon tried to shake him off, but Kim Soo-ho wasn't the type of person who would leave a crying girl be. He had a typical main character personality. Consoling a crying girl was almost in his instincts. "It's time to go." I didn't stay behind to watch what would happen between them. Making sure that Chae Na-yoon did not forget about her real gift, that was the extent of my role. Wednesday. The next combat exam began. As cadets had to fight monsters in this exam, ordinary people were prohibited from spectating. Furthermore, because magicians summoned monsters were of varying types and power, the exam was graded on an absolute scale, rather than a relative scale. Be extra careful in today's exam. If you refuse to give up, you might end up really dying. Kim Soo-hyuk gave a solemn warning. Just like he said, summoned monsters are dangerous. Even though they were summoned by magicians, they were unable to comprehend complex orders. Annihilate enemies and protect allies, that was the extent of the order they could understand. An order like, test that cadet's skill, was out of the question. Not to mention, summoned monsters didn't just disappear into thin air when magicians reverse summoned them. So, cadets had to be on their toes even after surrendering. If you think your life is in danger, surrender immediately. You can yell, "I surrender," or simply tap on the ground twice. I stood still and calmly listened to Kim Soo-hyuk's explanation. Chae Na-yoon was glaring at me from the side, but I ignored her. Magicians in charge of the exam will give the rest of the explanation. Give them a warm welcome. The door opened and robed magicians walked in. Summoner magicians weren't given any special treatment. The magician's tower had a strict hierarchy among magicians depending on their specialty, and summoner magicians were nothing more than average. And because summoner magicians often worked outside of the magician's tower, they didn't have twisted personalities like most magicians. Nice to meet you all. I am the chief magician, Jin Juha. The leader of the magicians bowed to the cadets. Today, you will fight monsters we will summon. But be careful. Summoned monsters are no different than real monsters. Even if we reverse summon them, they won't disappear immediately like in games. So if things look dangerous, surrender immediately. The cadets nodded at the kind explanation. Good. Then we will tell you how the exam will proceed. Jin Juha smiled brightly. 4 cadets will go in at a time, and each cadet will be given 15 minutes. You will not be graded based on victory or loss, and your fighting role will obviously be taken into account. Jin Juha raised his index finger. First is how long you last. Next is how calmly you responded. In other words, you don't have to try to kill the summoned monster. Wing, wing. A smartwatch's faint vibration cut a mid-sentence. The magician looked around the room. Please turn off all smartwatches. He spoke nonchalantly. We also nonchalantly turned off our smartwatches.
Chapter 43. Chief Magician Jin Juhua's explanation dragged on for a long time. He explained how the exam would be carried out, how groups would be formed, and the types of monsters that would be summoned. I understood that he was a cautious person, but I just wished he would get on with the exam already. Now, we will begin the exam. Group 1 members should stand up. Finally, he spoke to words I was waiting for. Group 1 was Hazuki, Kim Junho, Yu Jung-jin, and Spinner. Hazuki was the only one I knew. I'll do my best. Hazuki stood up as her friends encouraged her. The 4 group members followed a staff member to the examination ground. Everyone else, please stand to the side. The 96 remaining cadets of Veritas class stood against the wall, wondering why. Suddenly, Jin Juhua clapped, and 10 circular tables with 10 chairs each rose from the floor. Immediately, cadets groaned. Sit wherever you want. Since I already knew this would happen, I wasn't fazed at all. I took a random seat while other cadets sat close to their friends. Question mark? As I waited for Jin Juhua's next words, a sweet fragrance tickled my nose. It was a unique, aromatic smell of rose. I glanced sideways. It was Rachel. She was staring at her fingernails. It seemed one of her nails was too sharp, so she took a nail clipper to it. At that moment, her eyes met mine. Rachel quickly put the nail clipper away in her pocket. Battle analysis will be part of this exam. Jin Juhua's explanation began again. It's simple. You will carefully analyze cadets who are battling monsters and write a report. In an instant, a monitor shot up from each table. There was one for each seat, a total of 100. The monitor's screen was split into 4, each showing a cadet from the group taking the exam. How they were able to defeat their monster, or why they lost, even if they won, in what areas they were lacking, if they lost, what methods they could have used to get a better result. This is what we are looking for in your reports. Chuck, chuck. Jin Juhua clapped, and the other magicians began to hand out report papers. You have to write 3 reports in total, but the best report will be reflected in your grade. Of course, that doesn't mean you can only write 1 report. If you do, you will be penalized. I picked up the paper in front of me. Looking at the peer assessment paper, I suddenly remembered my college days. I had to write my name on the evaluating cadet line and the name of the cadet I was evaluating on the evaluatee cadet line. Check the anonymous checkbox if you wish to remain anonymous. Thankfully, we have the option of being anonymous. For the record, this report is only 5% of your grade, but the reports you write will be given to the cadets you evaluate. At these words, cadets began to exchange meaningful looks. Giving your peers healthy advice and recommendations and encouraging honest self-development, I think these are duties of hero. So if you abuse the ability to be anonymous to be malicious, you will be penalized accordingly. The chief magician's mouth curled up into a smile. It seems we are ready. Group 1's exam will now begin. I stared at the monitor. I clicked on the box Hazuki was in. The other 3 boxes disappeared and only Hazuki's filled the screen. Hazuki was facing a ghoul, a low intermediate rank grade 1 monster. It should be a difficult fight for Hazuki. Clang, clang! The ghoul's claws clashed with Hazuki's axe. Hazuki responded to its attacks calmly, but a ghoul's claws were harder than most high-grade weapons. After exchanging a few blows, Hazuki must have realized she was at a disadvantage in close combat, so she began to circle around the room. Using the ghoul's slow speed to her advantage, she looked for an opening in its defense. But 15 minutes went by without change. The ghoul disappeared after being reverse summoned. Draw: Hazuki and Yu Jung-jin. Victory: Spinner. Defeat: Kim Jun-ho. Next is Group 2. Chai Ne-yoon, Hojun, Jutrin, and Carlos. Next up was Chai Ne-yoon's group. Chai Ne-yoon walked up confidently. The weight of her bow seemed lighter than usual. Just what could Kim Suho have said to her to make her feel so energetic? I looked at Chai Ne-yoon through the monitor. 1,000-mile horse? Chai Ne-yoon's opponent was the 1,000-mile horse, an intermediate rank grade 9 monster. It was one of the trickiest monsters for an archer to face. But on the screen, Chai Ne-yoon stood tall with confidence in front of the 1,000-mile horse. Not long after, the battle began. Chai Ne-yoon drew her bow, and the 1,000-mile horse charged at her. I examined their fight closely. My gift, Master Sharpshooter, seemed to affect my eyes as I could clearly see Chai Ne-yoon's faults. Chai Ne-yoon. Chai Ne-yoon dodged the charging 1,000-mile horse by rolling to the side. Doing so, she missed an opportunity to attack. She should have stabbed an arrow into its flank, or if she fired after rolling, she would have hit the horse's rear. Chai Ne-yoon only wants to shoot her bow in upright positions. In other words, she lacks adaptability and situational awareness as an archer. Chai Ne-yoon was too fixated on textbook stances. As a result, the 1,000-mile horse easily dodged her arrows. In one-on-one fights, sharpshooters require detailed analysis and background knowledge of their target. However, Chai Ne-yoon lacks knowledge about monsters. Defeating a 1,000-mile horse was easy if one started by disabling its legs. However, Chai Ne-yoon was attacking places with a large surface area, like its neck and body. She doesn't like memorizing theory. It was Chai Ne-yoon's fault that I created myself. Even with that, Chai Ne-yoon was able to win against the 1,000-mile horse because of her overwhelming magic power control, capacity, and adaptability. Eventually, the 1,000-mile horse got tired. It couldn't withstand the endless barrage of arrows from Chai Ne-yoon's terrifying magic power capacity. Overall, I recommend that Chai Ne-yoon find a weapon that is more suited to utilizing her immense magic power. The exam ended with her victory. However, my report was filled with criticisms. Still, they were reasonable. If the person grading this report had sharp eyes, they would know that I was right. Victory, Chai Ne-yoon. Defeat, Hojun and Gutrin. Draw, Carlos. After the exam, Chai Ne-yoon returned as confidently as she had left. I didn't even give her a glance. Feeling somewhat guilty, I flipped over my report. Next is Group 3. The exam continued.
Meanwhile, Oh Jun-hyuk was patrolling the West Forest. The faint vibration he felt earlier was bothering him. Normally, he would have thought of it as a natural phenomenon and ignored it, but a police officer had been killed the day before. As a result, Oh Jun-hyuk was more sensitive to his surroundings. A vibration even clearer than before rang out. Youngji, did you feel that? Sei Youngji's reply came within a second through the microtransceiver. Yep, another vibration. I think it's coming from the ocean. Can you tell me exactly when you felt the vibration? How should I know? Then just send me your smartwatch data. Oh Jun-hyuk did as she said.
I'm in the East Forest. The vibration was 0.03 seconds faster on your side. The source of the vibration must be in the West Sea. Can I use the smartwatch to calculate the same thing? You should be able to. It's the association's specially crafted smartwatch. It has a lot of useful functions. Anyway, I'm heading over there now. Wait for me. Got it. Oh Junyuk began to walk towards the West Sea through a field of weeds. Since the vibration came from the West Sea, he planned to observe it from a distance. But at that moment, he felt a condensing and scattering of magic power. Oh Junyuk quickly turned in that direction. A shadowy figure was walking out from the dense forest. Oh Junyuk stared at the figure holding his breath. Tap, tap. With heavy steps, a man walked out, a man he had seen before. Because of the unique aura he gave off, Oh Junyuk remembered him. A large build and a sinister face. It was the man who had glared at him in the arena. Oh Junyuk's eyes met the man's. The man returned a big smile. Looking at the man, Oh Junyuk spoke in a businesslike manner. This area is off limits to outsiders. Is it? Then why are you here? His voice was husky and full. However, Oh Junyuk retorted without being fazed. Because I'm not an outsider. What a surprise. The giant man gave a dry reply as he rubbed his chin. Oh Junyuk forced himself to smile. If you understand, please go back. I refuse. With a grin, the giant man suddenly began to crack his joints. He was clearly asking for a fight. Oh Junyuk let out a deep sigh. The one who murdered that police officer. That was you, wasn't it? Huh? I don't know. Rather than that, don't just stand there. At that moment, a chilling wind blew from the sea. Oh Junyuk's smartwatch rang loudly. At the same time, move if you don't want to be beaten up. The moment the giant man's voice fell low, shwa! From the depths of the sea, a giant creature shot up with a burst of water. Oh Junyuk quickly turned around. The creature looked like a giant snake, but its overwhelming size and vicious mouth showed that it was in a league of its own. Serpent Dragon, a mythical monster, had appeared in the West Sea.
Chapter 44. Wow, I wonder if I got some sort of insight. Who knew I could win against a 1,000-mile horse so easily? Tired of waiting, I was looking at my laptop when Che Na-yoon's bragging voice reached my ears. Really? What happened, Na-yoon? Yu Yen-ha chimed in from beside her. Although Yu Yen-ha usually lowered her head in front of Che Na-yoon, her genuinely surprised expression showed that this was not just flattery. It was understandable. Yu Yen-ha didn't know much about bows, so Che Na-yoon's battle might have seemed flawless. At first glance, it was an impressive fight. But as the saying goes, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. I learned from failure, something like that. Che Na-yoon laughed heartily. She must have been feeling great, even bringing up her loss from yesterday. Meanwhile, Kim Soo-ho smiled warmly as she watched her. As for me, I felt a chill run down my back at the thought of Che Na-yoon reading my report. Should I submit it anonymously? Group 10, Rachel, Kim Hajin, Skid, Lee Wei. Come this way. Rachel and I followed a staff member with the rest of Group 10. We arrived at a waiting room, and the staff opened a large door on the right. Go in. Behind the door was a long hallway. We walked in. Soon, the hallway ended, and 2 doors stood on each side of the wall. Stand in front of the door. The staff guided us to a door each. I was on the same side as Rachel. Good luck on your exam. I gave Rachel an energetic cheer, and she nodded in return. You have 1 minute to confirm your monster and terrain. Through the window on the door, I could see the monster and terrain I would face. The terrain was flatland. The monster was a chrome wolf. Chrome wolves were monsters ranging from low intermediate rank grade 4 to grade 2. It was weaker than what some other cadets had to face. However, fighting it with a gun was very difficult. Anyone could see that bullets would just bounce off its skin. Peculiarity, its skin has the ability to reflect metallic objects. Weakness, inside the mouth. Strength, powerful epidermis. Chrome wolves are monsters I created. 30 seconds left. They had metal and earth dual attributes, and their vital point was inside the mouth. While the combination of metal and earth made them hard to deal with, their weakness was clear. Extreme heat that could melt metal and earth is what I needed. I gripped the knife in my pocket. If necessary, I could use Stigma's magic power to heat it up. "A minute has passed. Please enter." The members of Group 10 walked into the examination ground. It was a small room, about 130 square meters. Dirt and rocks covered the ground, and a wolf was crunching on something on the other side. I barely had time to think. Chrome wolves could attack from a distance. I quickly raised my gun. Twee! The wolf spat something out. A metallic fragment flew toward me. I aimed at it and fired. The fragment and my bullet collided, destroying each other. It charged at me immediately after. I activated bullet time. I could clearly see the wolf's slowed movements, but I didn't move. I waited for it to open its mouth. Because it was so slow, I wasn't even scared. As in slow motion, the chrome wolf opened its jaws as it lunged for my neck. I jabbed my gun into its mouth and fired several times. By the time the chrome wolf shut its mouth, I had already jumped back several meters. My sense of time returned to normal, and the chrome wolf convulsed in pain. Unfortunately, it wasn't dead yet. After retching a few times, it spat out 10 crushed bullets. Then it growled while glaring at me. "Tough, aren't you?" I had struck its vital point, but the chrome wolf's bulletproof property put me at a disadvantage. With no choice, I took out my knife. With a gun in one hand and a knife in the other, I lowered my body and glared back at the wolf. My lips were dry, and sweat svenched my body. Close combat was always frightening. Just as the fight was about to break out, quang! A huge explosion erupted and the lights in the room went out. I was now in total darkness, but I couldn't let my guard down. There was a savage beast in here with me. "A problem has occurred. All monsters will be reverse summoned. Cadets are to leave the examination ground immediately." The speaker cut out with static. I stared at the wolf. Rather than being reverse summoned, it was growing even more ferocious. Is that thing going to be reverse summoned?" No one answered my question. One or more of the dispatched magicians must be a djinn. Jin Jua was not a djinn. I had already checked on my laptop. No change in setting had happened to him. In fact, the laptop didn't detect any setting change. This could only mean one thing. The djinn deployed here was a djinn I didn't know. It was entirely possible. There are countless djinns in this world. It wasn't strange for an extra who appear. I knew this would happen eventually. An event I don't know about is happening. My heart rate went up at the uncertainty, but I forced myself to calm down. After a deep breath, I looked through the wall at the room next door. Rachel seemed to be in a similar situation, calmly facing her opponent. But her opponent was a person.
Wow.
At that moment, the chrome wolf charged at me with a howl. I took out my personal weapon from Stigma. Desert Eagle materialized in my hand, and Aether fused with it instantly. The grip fit snugly in my hand. First, I fired a bullet at the charging chrome wolf. It fell with a whimper. Know your place. The Desert Eagle I had taken out for the first time in a while was much more powerful than before. I didn't have time to admire its strength. I didn't even have time to look at my laptop. Rachel was the urgent problem. There are arcs where Rachel was targeted. One of the antagonists wanted to conquer England itself. But now shouldn't be the time. They should only attack after growing their forces more. I furrowed my brows at the growling noise. When I looked ahead, the single chrome wolf had multiplied to 3, but I wasn't worried at all. I transformed Desert Eagle into shotgun mode. At the same time, the 3 chrome wolves leapt at me. My job was simple. I just had to point my shotgun calmly and fire without shaking. Quang! Thunderous gunshots rang out. In a dark room filled with chilling air and killing intent, a lone man's cold murmur rose up. I knew this day would come. What should have been familiar language sounded strange to Rachel. She glared at the man who appeared from the darkness. Although he wore a cape and covered his face, Rachel felt like she knew him. Rachel calmly spoke his name.
"Sir Lancaster."
The previous captain of the Royal Guard and Rachel's former master, Alex Lancaster, the man who disappeared years ago after his family was murdered in the infamous London incident, had appeared again, radiating killing intent. "I'm honored you remember me." A thin smile appeared on his face.
Rachel felt great malice from his sinister smile. She could easily see the path he had walked.
You sold your soul?
Lancaster shook his head, denying her claim. I lived my life for my country, but my country killed everything I had. I didn't sell my soul. Only my master took in my wandering soul after I was abandoned by my country. For a moment, deep sadness appeared on Rachel's face. What Lancaster said was a painful memory for her as well.
Is that why you came to me?
Princess, does it look like I came here? Rachel furrowed her brows. Then she stabbed with her rapier, but it simply passed through his body. I am somewhere, but not here. Rachel turned around. The door was tightly shut. For some reason, no help seemed to be coming. Lancaster spoke with a smile. There's quite a chaos outside right now. Of course, if this were England, Princess's safety would be the top priority. Tens, hundreds, thousands of lives wouldn't compare to Princess's. Lancaster paused. His smiling face twisted viciously. The entire country would not hesitate to throw away their lives to save Princess. After all, Princess is England's only hope. After saying what he wanted, Lancaster smiled in satisfaction. But that isn't the case here. In this place, you are only one of many cadets. Rachel stared at him with sadness. The resentment and anger in his voice made her feel guilty. But Lancaster clenched his teeth at her response. So you still won't remove your hypocritical mask of pretense? Anger and regret filled his words. Rachel took a small, brave step toward him. Sir Lancaster, I would like to talk longer, but there is no time. Lancaster rejected her and bowed respectfully. Farewell, Princess. Please be well. With that, he turned into black fog and disappeared. Wait! Suddenly, an assassin jumped out of the fog swinging a sword. Though it was abrupt, Rachel managed to swing her rapier and defend. At the same time, the attack sliced off a chunk of her magic power. She was astonished by the weight behind the magic power. But the assassin's magic power wasn't the only surprising thing. The assassin's movements were nimble and sharp. Left flank and shoulder, his keen attacks targeted Rachel's weak points. Two swords clashed, and a sharp metallic sound rang out. Hot sparks flew, and fresh blood burst into the air. Against the assassin's aggressive moves, Rachel could only defend. But as the fight continued, more scratches appeared on her body. Once the pain grew intense, Rachel had to admit she couldn't defeat the assassin with standard tactics. She made a gamble. The assassin didn't miss the opening she made. A deep stab appeared on her wrist, and Rachel dropped her rapier. Sensing victory, the assassin pressed in. At that moment, Rachel's rapier reacted. It was still connected to her magic power. The assassin moved to pierce Rachel's heart, while Rachel's rapier shot up toward his neck. Kwang! However, this tense moment was interrupted by a terrifying vibration and a fierce explosion. Rachel lost her balance along with the assassin. The assassin's sword couldn't reach Rachel's heart, and Rachel's rapier couldn't pierce his neck. Gong! The room shook with another vibration. This time, the right side of the wall crumbled. Rachel and the assassin both turned toward the wall. Gong! Another shockwave seemed to tear through the wall. The assassin raised his sword, and Rachel grabbed her rapier with her left hand. Gong! After the second shockwave, the assassin charged at Rachel, but she narrowly dodged by rolling aside. Gong! A third and final shockwave blew up the wall, sending the assassin flying back. Jeez, so much dust. Ptui! A man walked out from a cloud of acrid smoke. It was a familiar face to Rachel. Kim Hajin. It was him. Who the hell are you? Kim Hajin simply fired his gun. Gah! A shotgun shell sent the assassin flying across the room. It was a terrifying display of power.
Kim Hajin walked up to the assassin who was stuck against the wall. Click, click. The sound of his gun reloading echoed. Clack! He finished reloading. Rachel stared at the white magic power flowing around his arm. However, she didn't have the chance to ask any questions. Kim Hajin aimed at the assassin. He showed no hesitation as he pulled the trigger. In an instant, a radiant white light illuminated the dark room.
Chapter 45. Destructive Power Amplification Shotgun Shell, 50 SP each. Although I used ordinary bullets against chrome wolves, I used 5 of these special bullets to break down the wall and kill the assassin. In other words, I had consumed 250 SP in less than a minute. It was a necessary expenditure to break down the examination room's wall, and since I managed to save Rachel, I didn't particularly regret it. I reached out to Rachel, who was collapsed on the ground. She stared at my hand blankly before getting up by herself. I pulled my hand back and awkwardly scratched my cheek. Rachel stared at the broken-down wall to her right. The examination room's reinforced wall was in a sorry state because of my shotgun shells. Oh, the mana barrier disappeared when the electricity went out. I made an excuse because her gaze pricked at my conscience. Rachel's eyes rolled and landed on my shotgun. I hurriedly stuffed it in my bag, but it didn't fit because of its size. I quickly turned around and changed it to its handgun form before putting it away. I looked at Rachel's body. She was riddled with wounds and bleeding to a worrying degree. I should be concerned about her safety, but for some reason I thought of Evandel seed first. Her blood would be the perfect nourishment for it. "You're hurt." I took off the belt bag around my waist. To give a brief explanation, this belt bag was an all-purpose emergency kit created from all my fears and apprehension. Antidotes, potions, painkillers, tranquilizers, bandages, gauzes, all sorts of medicine and supplies were in this bag. Of course, recovery potions, namely the external wound recovery potion, were also included. Although recovery potions were a bit expensive, they were cheap compared to what Rachel's blood was worth. Here, it's an external wound recovery potion. When I gave her a glass bottle containing a red liquid, Rachel's eyes widened in surprise. "Before I put it on, I'll wipe off your blood first." Because I was nervous, I felt my lips going dry. I wet my lips with saliva before asking, "May I?" Rachel nodded. She had given me permission. First, I took out a gauze from my belt bag and wiped the blood flowing down from her wounded arm. As I took out more gauzes, I kept the used ones stacked on top of each other without throwing them away. Once her arm was mostly clean of blood, I wet a gauze with the potion before applying it to her skin. Immediately, Rachel clenched her teeth. Potions had a stinging sensation when applied over the skin, like antiseptics. I planned to heal her left arm first, but Rachel suddenly grabbed me. She spoke for the first time since we met. "Here, first." She showed me her right wrist. It was a serious wound. Her flesh and muscles were cut off entirely, and her bones were showing. If the cut was just a slightly deeper, her wrist would have been severed. But surprisingly, there was no blood coming out of the wound. It seemed Rachel was blocking the wound with her magic power. You should have told me earlier." I was genuinely shocked. She seemed to have only suffered light cuts and scratches, so I was focused on her blood and missed that she had a wound that needed immediate treatment. Any later and you would have had to give up on using a rapier forever. Despite costing 7 million won, external wound recovery potions weren't omnipotent. Sensitive areas like nerves had to be treated immediately. Otherwise, not even the authority of healing could do anything about it. "It's going to sting. A lot." I poured the rest of the potion over her wound and wrapped a bandage around it. "Ah!" The pain must have been intense, but Rachel endured it with only a short groan. I put 3 layers of bandages over her wound. With this, the treatment was complete. When I let go of her arm, Rachel crouched down on the ground and rolled her feet. It was easy to see that she was struggling to endure the pain. I picked up the bloodied stack of gauzes and put them into my cross bag.
While I waited for Rachel to recover, I turned on my laptop. A settings change alert was there as I expected. Lancaster Alex. Worsened attachment to his lost family. His rage has also been deepened. There is an increased chance of him attacking Rachel whenever he has the opportunity. Potential changed from 7.5 to 8.5 to serve as a greater threat. Lancaster Alex. He was one of the characters I created in relation to England. As an antagonist who appeared in the middle stage of the story, his goal was to topple England's government. Such a dangerous antagonist had gotten stronger and appeared earlier than intended. Unfortunately, there was nothing I could do about it. If I knew this would happen, I would have created more righteous characters. Of course, there were plenty of other righteous characters. For Rachel, there was a Secret Service agent from MI6 named James Joan. As he was based on the agent that everyone knew, his love and loyalty for his country was unshakable. A faint breathing sound rang out. I looked at Rachel. She was covered in sweat, but she must have overcome the pain, as she looked much better than before. Rachel staggered up slowly and bowed at me. "Thank you." Suddenly, electricity came back on, and the darkness shrouding the room disappeared. Naturally, our conversation was put on hold. Rachel and I walked to the door. Holding the doorknob, we slowly pushed it open. Though it was tightly shut before, it opened without a problem this time. After leaving the room, I stared at the examination rooms on the other side of the wall. It seemed the other two cadets were unable to escape in time, as their corpses were lying on the ground. A mixed feeling came over me, but I knew I couldn't have done anything about it. I led Rachel and began to walk back. With my eyes, I could see that the waiting room was in a pandemonium. Tap, tap. At that moment, I heard the sound of someone walking towards us. Rachel put up her guard. Seeing her, I simply smiled. Thankfully, we restored the electricity. It was Kim Soo-hyuk's voice. He was walking down the hallway while communicating with someone on a transceiver. "You guys, what are you doing here? No, why did you come back here?" "Come back? Didn't you guys—" Kim Soo-hyuk paused in the middle of his sentence, as though he'd remembered something. From his reaction, I also had an idea as to what happened. Jinns who could create illusions with form surely existed. "The other two are still inside." "Oh shoot, you two wait here. No, run to the infirmary." With that, Kim Soo-hyuk ran down the hallway. By the time his back disappeared from my normal view, I turned towards Rachel. Then I whispered softly, I may have to lie soon, so when the time comes, please match words with me. If they find out that I brought in my personal weapon, I'll be expelled." Rachel nodded at my request.
After the huge disturbance, in the silent shadow of the now empty waiting room, darkness suddenly sprung up, growing in size until it formed a human figure. The figure was that of a short, cute boy. A deep smile emerged on the boy's face. Boss, I just saw something amazing." The boy, Druyun, came to observe Kim Hajin as per his boss's orders. Currently, he couldn't hide his excitement over what he saw. He seemed to finally understand why Boss was so interested in him. Guns. It's a gift related to guns. It's not just anti-magic. For now, return. I'll listen to you later. However, Boss cut him off coldly. "Okay." "Boss is no fun," Droon grumbled inwardly as he transformed into darkness once again. Next, he messaged another troop member. Young, how was the serpent dragon? Did you kill it?" Facing a clear ocean breeze, Oh Jun-yuk was sitting cross-legged on a rock. He was still trying to comprehend what he just witnessed. A serpent dragon had popped out of the sea, but Oh Jun-yuk. Se-young-ji arrived after everything was taken care of. Oh Jun-yuk turned towards her. "What's going on? Didn't you say a serpent dragon appeared?" "You knew that and you're this late?" "I ran into a problem on my way here. Monsters suddenly escaped from the laboratory. I had to take care of it before coming here." "So where's the serpent dragon?" "It was chased away. Deep into the ocean." "Huh? Serpent dragons were members of the dragon family, but that didn't mean they were terrifyingly strong. In terms of the association's standard ranking system, serpent dragons ranged from high intermediate rank grade 1 to high rank grade 7. Compared to some of the other monsters heroes of their caliber had to face, serpent dragons weren't particularly frightening. In the first place, serpent dragons weren't aggressive. They didn't know how to fight, and because of their intelligence, they were afraid of pain. Of course, it was a different story if a serpent dragon found a Sintamani. Note, a wish-fulfilling jewel in Hindu and Buddhist traditions. Wingless dragons would seek to obtain this object to gain wings and ascend to the heaven. Even so, what Oh Jun-yuk witnessed was shockingly unrealistic. Someone provoked the serpent dragon. Provoked? Yep, its eyes were red. It was clearly enraged. Hurling down from the sky with its gigantic mouth, the serpent dragon was undoubtedly oppressing. How did you chase away an enraged serpent dragon? Well, thinking back to what happened, Oh Jun-yuk didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Apparently, you just have to beat it until it regains its sanity. He recalled what he saw just 10 minutes ago. The giant man, wearing a gauntlet, stood in front of the serpent dragon and punched it. It was a simple straight punch, but the shock wave released from the attack was tremendous. The ground shook and trees were completely stripped of their leaves. The punch tore through the serpent dragon's tough scales, broke through its bones, and struck its muscles. The enraged serpent dragon's bloodshot eyes instantly cleared up. You want me to believe that? If you don't want to, don't. Oh, by the way, I need you to put someone on the wanted list. I filmed him on my smartwatch. He's the suspect behind yesterday's police officer murder case. Oh Jun-yuk sent Se-young-ji a video. It showed the giant man's face and build. Se-young-ji tilted her head as she checked the video. Tell them to contact me if he's found. Why? Nothing. It's been a while, but I found someone I want to fight. Oh Jun-yuk grinned. The cube monster incident became a hot topic across the world. Jin's being involved in the incident was kept under wraps, but because a serpent dragon and several other monsters critically injured 2 cadets, I thought they were dead, but it seemed they were just unconscious. Cube received a huge global backlash. As a result, the rest of the combat exams were put on hold. The result of the duels would be kept, while another monster war would take place later. Finally, the group rescue mission, which was planned for Friday, was canceled entirely considering the circumstances. In addition, classes were also canceled until Thursday 2 weeks later. In other words, there were no classes for the next 10 days. With the sudden holiday, cadets seemed to be planning on returning home or going on vacation with the compensation Cube gave out. Cube's official community forum was filled with posts asking for good places to visit in Japan or America, while some people left snarky remarks on how they could go on vacation when cadets were injured from the incident. In any case, none of these problems had any relevance to me. Even now, I was sitting in my dorm room protecting my abode. Oh, did it just eat? Evandale seed, the seed of a witch I obtained from Gari Mountain's hidden stage, was now sucking on Rachel's blood. The bloody gauze had returned to its white color. Once 3 months passed, a kind witch would be born, who would become my trusted helper. At that moment, a sudden pain overcame me. The source of the pain was my upper arm. It was a pain I felt once before. I quickly pulled up my sleeve. Another streak of stigma was being drawn on my arm. Calm down and be patient, Kim Hajin. You felt this pain before. You can do a lot more with another streak of stigma. For example, you can put more magic power into bullets. I couldn't continue my encouraging thought as it felt like someone was stabbing my brain with a knife. My thoughts cut off, and I clenched my teeth, unable to scream. In front of this tremendous pain, my consciousness slowly faded. On the other hand, Chae Na-yoon returned home. Her family home was a traditional Korean house with tiled roofs and eaves.
However, that was only on the outside. The interior of the house was large and elaborate and was no different than a European castle. "Welcome back, young lady." With a warm smile, a butler greeted Chae-na-yoon. "Long time no see, Gramps. I've been worried sick. I'm glad you're safe." Only 2 people were hurt. None of the ordinary visitors were injured either. Chae-na-yoon gave her bow to the butler who had been protecting her home for 30 years. "Oh, right. Is the item I ordered here yet?" "It arrived yesterday." "Yes." "Oh, and Cube sent some documents." "Documents?" "Yes, they're apparently exam reports. There are 24 of them." "Oh, that. Send it back to my dorm. I don't want to think about school when I'm... No, wait." Chae-na-yoon recalled her might as she fought the 1,000-mile horse. Other cadets must have been extremely impressed to have sent so many reports. 24. That means close to 25% of the class had written about her feat. Hoo-hoo. Send it to my room. I want to read it. Wondering what kind of praises she would get, Chae-na-yoon spoke. "Yes, understood." The butler bowed respectfully.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Have a suggestion? Let me know in the comments.